All right, today we're diving into something a little different. It's not a research paper or a historical text. We're breaking down a sermon. But this isn't your typical Sunday morning message. It's a liturgy that takes a concept you might know, the uncanny valley, and flips it on its head, turning it into a spiritual gateway for understanding the self, consciousness, and the watcher within.
So, the liturgy kicks off with this wild claim from the priest. Right from the jump, he's trying to unsettle us. He's saying, forget life and death for a second. The most profound, the most sacred dividing line in all of creation is the one between something that's real and something that's almost real. And that little gap, that almost, well, that's where everything important happens.
So where does the priest even begin a sermon like this? Well, not with a prayer or a hymn. He starts with something you probably know from robotics or CGI movies, the uncanny valley. But he's got a radical new take on it.
Okay, so here's the contrast. On the one hand, you have the view we all know. The uncanny valley is a psychological glitch, right? It's our brain's pattern recognition system just misfiring when it sees something that looks human but isn't quite right. The priest, though, he says that's completely wrong. It's not a glitch at all. He says it's a gate, a sacred ancient doorway in our own consciousness.
A gate to what, you ask? To this thing he calls the absolute Ich. Now, this isn't the I that's thinking about lunch or worrying about bills. It's something deeper. It's pure awareness. It's the witness that's just watching your personality, yourself, perform its daily show. And the priest's whole argument is that the only way to meet this witness is to walk straight into that creepy, repulsive feeling the uncanny valley gives you.
To show us how this journey works, the priest doesn't pull from Scripture. He tells a story, a parable. It's about a lonely artisan and his creation. A statue that was just a little too perfect, a flawless mirror that reflected everything except life itself.
Now this is really the key to the whole story, the artisan's motivation. He wasn't acting out of pride, trying to play God. He was just lonely. He wanted a friend. But in trying to make a perfect other, he accidentally created a perfect void. I mean, this statue was so lifelike it fooled the birds, but it was so empty that it just gave him a cold shiver. And this is just a brilliant explanation for why everyone, not just the artisan, recoiled from the statue. Its perfection felt like an insult. The priest says, our imperfections, our little asymmetries, our scars, they aren't mistakes. They're the fingerprint of time. They're proof that we've lived. The statue's perfect symmetry only screamed of absence. It was a perfect copy of a human, minus the soul.
So the story shifts here. It's no longer about the crowd's reaction. The focus is now on what the priest tells the artisan to do, and this is where we learn the real purpose of that deep, unsettling feeling of wrongness.
But before we can get that, we have to understand the priest's definition of the ego. This is crucial. He calls it a vanity filter. Its main job isn't even to make you feel good. Its one and only project is to constantly confirm that you are special, unique, and irreplaceable. It will put up with almost anything as long as it gets to be the star of the show.
And this is why the uncanny is so fundamentally terrifying to us. A robot that looks almost human isn't just creepy. It whispers a message that is a direct attack on the ego's entire existence. It looks at you and says, you are not special. You are not one of a kind. You are just a pattern. And buddy, patterns can be copied. The ego doesn't just disagree with that, it screams in terror.
So the priest gives the artisan a new mission. Stop trying to make a friend and start looking for a God. The journey isn't out there, it's in here. First, he has to watch how everyone else is repulsed by the statue. Then he has to listen to the command to look deeper. Third, and this is a big one, he has to actively lean into that wrong feeling. And finally, the hardest part of all, stop trying to bring the statue to life and instead become as still as the marble himself. This whole descent leads to the climax of the artisan's journey. By embracing that stillness and that wrongness, he finally discovers what's really at the bottom of the valley, what's hiding behind the mask of his own personality. And what he finds is, well, it's a bit of a shocker. That you spend your whole life defending, according to this liturgy, it's not some solid, unchangeable core. It's just a collection of habits, a bundle of conditioned responses inside a body that learned to answer when someone called its name. It's a performance, a program running on meat. And here it is, the big reveal. That shiver you get from the uncanny, it's not just fear. The priest says it's actually a moment of profound recognition. It's the soul, that witness, that absolute Ich, being startled because it recognizes a piece of itself in the machine. And in that same instant, it realizes that this skin, this body, was never meant to be its permanent home.
So all of this spirals toward one central, pivotal question. When you look in the mirror, yeah, you see your face. You see your ego managing its image. But there's something else there, isn't there? Something watching the ego do its work. And that something is asking the one question the ego can never, ever answer. Who's looking?
Okay, so that's a lot to take in. What's the takeaway here? The sermon's conclusion shifts from the story to the practical application. It tells us what we're actually supposed to do with this incredibly challenging view of the self.
And here's the bottom line. The uncanny valley isn't a problem we need to solve or a fear we need to get over. It's a tool. The priest calls it necessary friction. You know, like the heat you need to refine metal? It's the discomfort that's required to burn away the dross. Not the self, but our mistaken idea that the self is all there is.
And his final instruction is a direct command, to not step over the valley, but to stand right in the middle of it. Let it burn, welcome the uncanny. The point is to hold the self lightly, to carry it like a door you can open and close, not a fortress you have to defend. Use it like an address, not a definition. It's about staying in that uncomfortable space until the fear just dissolves, and you're left to wonder, what was so afraid in the first place?
The sermon ends with this unsettling blessing. It's not a wish for peace or happiness, it's a wish for the courage to face the ultimate uncanny valley, the one that stares back at you from your own mirror every single day. And it leaves us with one last command. For the next time you feel that shiver, look closer.